It's time for America Outdoors Radio, the show that covers the outdoor scene across the U.S. of A. and the entire continent. Fishing, hunting, conservation, outdoor recreation, and great destinations. We cover it all every week. It's your country, your outdoors. Let's explore it together with your host, John Kruse.
Welcome aboard. That's a nautical term, you know, and I've got to admit, I've been spending some time on my bass boat that I own with my best friend Rusty Johnston. We've gotten out a couple of times on our home lake of Potholes Reservoir in eastern Washington, where we both live, and the first time out, we were fishing a cold front. We usually don't do too well, but we actually scratched out a 5-fish limit, including a nice 4.1 pounder and one that was over 3.5. And yesterday we got out again. The weather was a lot nicer. It was 63 degrees. And we did scrape up a few bass, but it was kind of a weird pattern in terms of we couldn't really pattern them. We caught some off submerged willows that were fairly deep. We caught others that were only 3 feet deep or 2 feet deep, close to shore. Just kind of a weird day, but still a really fun day to be on the water. And of course, spending a day with your best friend fishing, it's hard to beat that. This week on the show, we've got some great guests for you I think you're really going to enjoy. In just a minute or so, you're going to hear from Corey Hart. He's with the Vermont Fish and Wildlife Department, and they are putting on several seminars this spring about catching brown bullhead. It's a species you don't hear about a lot, but they're plentiful across much of the United States, and they're fun to catch, and they're good to eat. After that, we're going to talk to Bob Olson. He is the coordinator for Hunt of a Lifetime Foundation in Colorado and Wyoming. He's going to tell you more about this foundation that's been a sponsor of this show for a couple of years now, about the great work they do, and about some memorable hunts that he's been able to put together for kids with life-threatening illnesses. After that, we'll be talking to Bass Pro Adam Rasmussen. Adam fished his first Bassmaster Classic last month, and he got second place. Only lost out by 3 pounds, cashed a $50,000 paycheck, and he is gung-hoed to fish a bunch of the Bass Opens this year with a goal of coming right back to the Classic and winning it next year. As you know, one of my favorite segments of this show is our record fish segments, and those usually cover a minute or so, but we've got something else to share with you about a 9-minute conversation with Rebecca Jones. She lives in Tillamook, Oregon, and she is primarily a self-taught hunter and angler, an adult learner, fairly new to the sport, but she loves to go fishing. And she was out on the jetty at Tillamook Bay, and she reeled in something very special. It's a fish you've probably never heard of. I never had before. It's called a monkey-face prickleback. And this monkey-face prickleback, weighing in at 4.8 pounds, is a pending world record. I think you're going to absolutely love the story that Rebecca tells about catching the fish, figuring out what it was, trying to get it weighed, and then what she did with the fish in the end. Next on America Outdoors Radio, we are heading to Vermont because the Vermont Fish and Wildlife Department is holding a series of introductory bullhead fishing clinics. With us here to tell you more about it is Corey Hart. He's the education specialist for the agency. Corey, welcome to the show.
Yeah, thank you so much, John, for having me. I'm really excited to talk bullhead fishing with you today. They're a really interesting species that are really abundant across the state and actually surprisingly easy to catch.
The brown bullhead actually has some nicknames. Why don't you go ahead and tell our listeners what some of them are?
The more common ones that you hear them refer to are bull pout or horn pout, but depending on the region that you're in, it could be referred to as one of probably 15 different names. There's a lot of species out there that are like that. So I actually grew up in Maine originally, and I was always referred to lake trout as a toad. I come out to Vermont, and now they're referred to as lake trout. So wherever you are, species often have many different names to them. The same thing goes for brown bullhead, where in your region you might call them horn pout or bull pout. They're all the same species.
Let's talk a little bit about the bullhead. You know, they range across America. We've got yellow bullhead where I live. You've got brown bullhead over there. But they're kind of the Rodney Dangerfield of fish to some extent. A lot of folks, you know, just catch them incidentally while fishing for other species, but they fight really well, and they're really good table fare too, aren't they?
They're actually delicious. So we have 4 species of catfish in Vermont. We have channel cats, stone cats, which are a state endangered species, and then we have yellow bullhead and brown bullhead as well. Brown bullhead can be found pretty much statewide. They're really abundant across Vermont, and what we see is most anglers will actually target them during the spring, right as they're moving in their spawning runs, and that starts within about 2 to 3 weeks after ice out. This year, the run's been delayed a little bit every time it seems like we're out of winter, another snowstorm hits us, which sets us back a little bit this year. But if you're just looking to go out and get some table fare, they're a really good way to fill your freezer.
Well, and bullhead, very aggressive fish. I've caught them bass fishing using spinner baits and crankbaits, but that's not the best way to catch them. It's actually really simple when it comes to catching these fish, isn't it?
Extremely simple. So with any catfish, they thrive in murky waters. So basically what they're doing is they're on the bottoms with their whiskers or barbels, and they're looking for food sources. So if you're fishing in a slow-moving body of water with a night crawler or another piece of bait, such as either a hot dog or anything like that, and you just let it sit. So the longer you let that bait sit out there, the higher the chance of you actually catching a brown bullhead are. And the fish is actually going to come to you. So you don't have to throw crankbaits or anything like that. Just a bait on the bottom and slow-moving water is really the way to go.
Let's talk about what you're going to cover in these introduction to bullhead fishing clinics.
Yeah, so the programs are designed for anyone. So we have folks that come to these programs that have never picked up a fishing rod before, and then we have folks that have been fishing their entire life that are just looking to learn how to catch brown bullhead, as it's a species that maybe they've never targeted before. So right off the bat, we focus on location. So where are you going to want to set up for these species? Not every body of water is going to be the same. So why are certain areas going to hold those bullhead versus others, especially during the springtime? And then we go over basic knots, rigging. So we rig up very simply, just with a casting sinker up on a leader, with a bead separating the casting sinker from your barrel swivel, with about 1.5 feet leader. I prefer a longer shank hook. It makes it a little bit easier to take out of the mouth of the bullhead as you're working with it. And then we just walk everybody through, basic casting basics. One of our wardens will come out and go over regulations with everybody and answer any questions folks may have. And one of the really neat aspects of the program is we're actually fishing at night. So a lot of folks have never even thought of going out fishing during the evening hours before. So just being out there on the riverbank at night is a really unique experience for people. And lastly, if we catch a bullhead, we'll show you how to fillet it up.
And, they say there's more than one way to skin a cat, but when it comes to a catfish, that can be a little different than filleting up a walleye or a bass. So I'm glad you're including that part. Let's talk about the fact the space is limited, just 30 registrants. I presume this is limited just to Vermont residents?
Our programs are open to anybody, so they're all free, and you can register right on vtfishandwildlife.com. But we do limit it to 30 just due to space requirements.
Sure, I completely understand. So to our listeners tuning in from New Hampshire today, I know some are also tuning in from Vermont, listening to those New Hampshire stations. This is for you. Let's give out the dates and the times and the locations.
Yeah, so we have 3 programs coming up. The first is going to be on Friday, April 26th. At Stonebridge Dam in Panton. And you can register for all of the programs right on our website at vtfishandwildlife.com. The second is at Max Bend up in Swanton on the Missisquoi Wildlife Refuge, and that is Thursday, May 2nd. And the last is Wednesday, May 15th at Hoyt's Landing in Springfield. And that is actually right on the Connecticut River, directly across from New Hampshire. So for your New Hampshire listeners, that would be perfect for them. All of the programs run from 6:30 to 9 at night.
All right. Well, it sounds like all sorts of fun. But, Corey, as much fun as these clinics look like they're going to be, I'm pretty sure our listeners in states like Arkansas and Missouri and California are not going to be able to attend. But I understand you've actually got a YouTube video that's a clinic in itself.
We do. And what's really nice about this is no matter if you're out west or wherever you are, the techniques are pretty much the same. So for you listeners that are out there and are looking to learn about brown bullhead but aren't able to attend a clinic, you can go right to our YouTube page, Vermont Fish and Wildlife Department, and look up the video, which is called How to Catch Bullhead in the Spring. And you'll see a short 7-minute video that shows you how to actually rig up your equipment and be successful at catching bullhead during the spring.
Sounds like a great resource. If you've never targeted bullhead before, the introduction to bullhead fishing clinics, this is for you. And I congratulate you for putting these on every spring. This is a great educational opportunity and a great way to get folks hooked on fishing for this iconic species. Corey, thanks so much for sharing this with us today on America Outdoors Radio.
No problem. Thank you for having me, John.
We've been telling you about Sportsman's Cove Lodge in Southeast Alaska for a while now. They're truly Alaska's best lodge. Wildlife is abundant, from bears and deer to eagles and whales, and let's not forget the reason you're here, the fishing. Halibut, salmon, lingcod, rockfish, true cod, and more. It's all waiting for you in abundance at Sportsman's Cove Lodge. Book your trip today at alaskasbestlodge.com. That's alaskasbestlodge.com for Sportsman's Cove Lodge.
Come explore the Dalles in Oregon for outdoors fun. Hike amongst the wildflowers, bike our riverfront trail, or visit the Gorge Discovery Center where you can enjoy a live raptor display, or even check out our National Neon Sign Museum. But don't forget the fishing. We've got salmon, steelhead, bass, walleye, and monster-sized sturgeon waiting just for you. When the day is done, tell those tall tales at one of our wineries, breweries, or restaurants and plan your next adventure. Find out more at explorethedalles.com.
Looking to reel in the marketing opportunity of a lifetime? Then set the hook, because we've got it right here. America Outdoors Radio has sponsorships available, and we offer an affordable platform to reach thousands of listeners interested in fishing, hunting, and the outdoors. Find out more by contacting host John Kruse through his website at AmericanOutdoorsRadio.com. That's AmericaOutdoorsRadio.com. But hurry, if you wait too long, this big opportunity might just get away. That's AmericaOutdoorsRadio.com.
Northwest Oregon's Tillamook Coast is not only the place to go for cheese and ice cream, but also for outdoors fun. Hook into a salmon in Tillamook Bay or one of the rivers flowing into it. Harvest tasty clams from our bays and pull up a crab arena or pot full of big, Dungeness crab. Visit our parks, walk the beaches, explore our forests, and enjoy our coastal communities. You are going to love it here. Plan your trip today at tillamookcoast.com. That's tillamookcoast.com.
Welcome back to America Outdoors Radio. I'm John Kruse. We've got Bob Olson on the line, volunteer lead for the Hunt of a Lifetime Foundation in Wyoming, in Colorado. And Hunt of a Lifetime Foundation, you hear about them every week on the show. They've been a sponsor the last couple years. They do some great work. Bob, welcome to the show.
Thank you, John. I appreciate the opportunity.
So why don't you tell our listeners exactly what the Hunt of a Lifetime Foundation does?
Hunt of a Lifetime is a nonprofit volunteer organization. The mission of fulfilling outdoor wishes, mostly hunting and fishing wishes for young people 21 and under that have been diagnosed with life-threatening illnesses or conditions.
And how did you get involved with the organization?
I read about the organization 20-plus years ago. I'm going to say 2002, 2001 in there, in one of the outdoor magazines, Field and Stream or Sports Afield, one of those. And there was an article about Tina and the founding of the Hunt of a Lifetime Foundation. And I reached out to her at that time and had a conversation and said I would be interested in being involved and I could do some things and help probably create some destinations for hunting in particular in both Colorado and Wyoming. So that was the beginning of my involvement with the foundation.
And Tina Pattison, folks, is the founder of Hunt of a Lifetime Foundation. She lost her son, Matthew, back around the time that the organization was founded due to cancer. And she was able to take him on a real special hunt. And about a year later, she was contacted by somebody else who said, hey, we would like to have our son, Matthew, go on a hunt. Can you help us out? He also is suffering from a life-threatening illness, and that's how Hunt of a Lifetime was born. So let's talk about some of the recent hunts or adventures that youth with these life-threatening illnesses have been able to enjoy in Colorado and Wyoming.
Sounds great. Yeah, at the time I got started with Hunt of a Lifetime, I was still working a full-time job, so I had some involvement, but in the last 6-7 years, I have been able to ramp up my involvement and devote a good deal more time and energy to Hunt of a Lifetime. My efforts really are largely around identifying destinations for hunts in Colorado and Wyoming and creating relationships with landowners, land managers, guides and outfitters, whoever might be associated with those particular properties. So I'm on the coordinating and fulfilling side of the foundation. We do a number of elk hunts in Colorado and Wyoming. We're one of the primary destinations to fulfill the request for elk hunts that ultimately come into Hunt of a Lifetime Foundation. So young people who want to hunt elk, Colorado and Wyoming are obviously on their list of possible destinations. Probably one of the more memorable ones for me occurred last fall here in Colorado. We had a young lady who was actually confined to a wheelchair, about 20 years old, from Pennsylvania, and her wish was to come out here, and she came with her mother and father and actually her sister as well on what was an extended trip. But our hunting took place on a fairly nearby property here in the greater Denver area, outside of Denver a bit. And she was successful in taking an elk one evening in her hunt from a wheelchair setup. And it was just one of the more satisfying or gratifying experiences. John, I'll tell you that one of the things I strive to do is to make sure that we can create a really positive experience for the people who generously host us on hunts and contribute their resources to make it all possible. Make sure that they're hopefully enjoying the benefits and feelings that go along with doing that. And this was just one of those special occasions where, people were excited and the emotions ran high. And it was really one of the more memorable and impactful hunts that we've probably done. And the people who participated in it, that host it, have told me that these hunts just create an impact that they don't have an opportunity to quite experience with the typical normal hunting experience that goes on. So I think we're impacting not only the youth and their parent or adult companion who accompanies them, preferably parents, but we're also creating impact for those people who are generously hosting us and providing assets and resources to make it all happen.
The show today is being heard on KFKA out of Greeley. It's also being heard in several stations in Wyoming, but it's also being heard nationwide. And there's kind of three groups of people that can really help the Hunt of a Lifetime Foundation. One of them, you just referenced, are landowners. There's landowners who may have some deer on their property or some elk on the property or bear on the property. And if they want to help, how should they go about doing so?
So probably the first place to go to would be huntofalifetime.org. Run it all together, one word, huntofalifetime.org. It'll take you to the foundation's website. We have a host of information there. Those that are inclined to support us financially, we always have a need for financial support. That can be done that way. There are also volunteer questionnaires for guides and outfitters that we ask be completed, questionnaires for volunteers that would like to get involved anywhere in the country, because we do reach across the country. And we also have our application paperwork for youth that are interested in applying for a hunt. They can download the paperwork there and fill it out and send it in to headquarters, which is where Tina will receive it, and she reviews and kind of makes the decisions on hunts based on those applications. Can also reach us by phone. Phone number, which actually would go directly to Tina. She's, operating as president of the foundation, continues to do so. She can be reached at 814-572-4387 in Pennsylvania.
That number again, 814-572-4387. And you can just go to donations or sponsorship at huntofalifetime.org. And, landowners are an important part of this. Guides who are willing to go ahead and donate a hunt to one of these kids that are suffering from a life-threatening illness. You can also help out that way. And maybe you want to volunteer. Maybe you want to do like Bob's doing and help coordinate some of these hunts in the area you live in. Or if you just want to donate, these trips cost money. They're absolutely free to the kids. Everything's included, but you need money to fuel this machine, which is Hunt of a Lifetime Foundation, because they're doing great work and they can't do it without some financial help. So again, consider going to huntofalifetime.org and helping out, whether it just be through a financial donation, whether it be through time as a volunteer, or donating a hunt as a guide, or maybe making your property available for a hunt as a landowner. It all helps make some special dreams come true for these kids who are in a really tough fight, a fight for their lives, and just want a means to escape and have a wonderful time through a wonderful hunt. Bob, thanks for what you do, and thanks for sharing this with us today on America Outdoors Radio.
John, thanks for the opportunity and the additional reinforcement of the work that Hunt of a Lifetime does. We have a lot of great people supporting us, landowners, land managers, guides, outfitters, a host of those folks. And without their generous support on the ground as well, it wouldn't all be possible. So funding is always needed as well, and I appreciate your comments along that line. So thanks again. Appreciate it, John.
My pleasure. Planning a day at the range or plinking targets with your friends? Or maybe you're looking to do some small game hunting with a rimfire rifle. Either way, they're going to be impressed when you show up with a Henry Golden Boy lever action rifle. This beauty has a brass light finish, a wooden stock and grip, and a blued 20-inch octagon barrel that makes this rifle handle great, and it is accurate too, especially for offhand shooting. Want to up your Golden Boy rifle game? You can order a deluxe engraved edition or one with a personalized inscription. Like every rifle manufactured by Henry Repeating Arms, this has a lifetime guarantee. Find out more about the world-famous Golden Boy rifle and order a free catalog too at henryusa.com. That's henryusa.com for Henry Repeating Arms, made in America, and a proud sponsor of America Outdoors Radio.
When you think of Work Sharp knife and tool sharpeners, you probably think of sharpeners for the shop or the field, but Work Sharp has a whole lineup of sharpeners for the kitchen too. We're talking about everything from easy-to-use manual and electric knife sharpeners to ceramic honing rods, whetstones, and the new rolling knife sharpener, an innovative manual sharpener that will do wonders for your cutlery. Make sure there's never a dull moment in your kitchen. Check out the entire product line and order today at WorkSharpTools.com. That's WorkSharpTools.com. Immerse yourself in a complete Alaska wilderness experience through Sportsman's Cove Lodge. Up to 6 of you will spend a week in a beautiful waterfront log home in a secluded cove. Every day is a new adventure. Go on a guided fishing trip or haul in a bounty of shrimp and crab. Visit a Native American village where totem poles are carved. Go on a whale or bear watching trip and return back to your very own place at the end of the day. Find out more about the Alaska Wilderness Experience at alaskasbestlodge.com. That's alaskasbestlodge.com.
You're back in with America Outdoors Radio. I'm John Kruse. Our next stop is the state of Wisconsin. That's the home of Adam Rasmussen. If you were paying attention to the Bassmaster Classic this year, you were probably paying attention to Adam Rasmussen. It was his first Classic ever, but he landed in second place, just 3 pounds behind the winner this year. What an incredible performance. Adam, congratulations.
Thank you. Thanks for having me on the show.
Well, it's my pleasure, and congratulations on that $50,000 paycheck, not the $300,000 paycheck that went to the winner, but still very impressive. And I've got to ask, it's your first Classic. You've only been trying to get into the Classic for a couple of years now. Were you intimidated at all, fishing against the likes of Hank Cherry, Jason Christie, who was the odds-on favorite, Brandon Palaniuk, or some of the other big names there?
Yeah, I'm not going to lie. At first, it was intimidating. Jason Christie was boat 13th. I was boat 12. Like, we're sitting right next to each other in the morning. And, yeah, he's a scary dude. Like, the guy is an excellent angler. He's had success all over the board. And we're on his lake. So, things were a little intimidating until, once we took off that first morning, all that went away. Like, it was time to do my job and put the 5 biggest bass I could in my life well in my Vexus and take them for a ride to Tulsa. And it definitely helped being in third place on day one. I think I weighed like 19.5. So having that good first day definitely helped. It put everything else at ease. And I kind of forgot about, some of the other people that are fishing. And end of the day, like, we're all the same. We all work very hard, and, this is the sport that we love. So, those guys aren't any different. They've just, they've been at it a little bit longer and had some really good success. So we're all the same people.
What was your key to success for doing as well as you did? I mean, again, 3 days, you weighed in 55-pound bag. That's really impressive.
Yeah, so I kind of kept it fairly simple. Grand Lake is generally a shallower fishery as far as how you're going to catch them, especially the time of year we're there in the springtime. But dirty, stained water. So I knew that all my fishing was going to be done in less than 15 feet of water. So I just approached it, basically try to find the right kind of points that they're going to stage on and other objects they could stage on before they move up into these pockets to spawn, which were brush piles. So I kind of went at it with a 1-2 punch, fished a jig in the brush piles, and I'd fish a spinnerbait on those secondary points that they're holding on as well.
I understand electronics played a key role, especially when it came to those brush piles, and your electronics come from Humminbird Minn Kota, don't they?
They do, yeah. So I spent quite a bit of time staring at my apexes, graphing around side imaging, marking brush piles. I think I marked close to 500 piles in the areas that I knew the fish, should be coming to. Along with that, like when I'd go and fish, I always rely on my Mega 360. Some of those fish weren't up off the bottom where you could see them with your Mega Live or forward-facing sonar. I can see them on my 360 when they're tight to the bottom. So I could see some of those fish around those brush piles, and then I would use my Mega Live, just to dial my cast. And, I don't need to cast 80 feet when the brush pile is 60 feet from my boat, and I don't need to waste any casts. So that allowed me to put my jig right in the pile, not wasting any time throughout the day, and it just makes you more efficient throughout your day on the water.
I've got to ask about the jig and the spinnerbait. Exactly what were you using and what color?
Just a homemade jig, 1/2 to 3/4 ounce, depending on the wind and water depth. Anything brown, green pumpkin. And then on the back of that, kind of the whole key, and I've made quite a bit of money in the last couple of years on, is the Crush City Cleanup Craw. Just a green pumpkin craw. It's an awesome trailer. You can use it as a trailer on anything, so it's just a good item to keep in your boat to have a lot of bases covered. And then on the spinnerbait, I just fished, a 1/2 ounce or 3/4 ounce spinnerbait, chartreuse and white, with a gold Colorado blade. And then one thing I like to do on the spinnerbait is put some sort of swim bait on there. I think it helps them inhale that bait better and kind of gets rid of the need for a trailer hook then. So, for that application, I went with the Crush City 3-inch Mayer and hung that on the back of it, and, never missed a fish on the spinnerbait all week because of that.
Let's talk about your journey to the Classic. You're a fishing guide,
Yep.
in Wisconsin. How did you go from fishing guide to getting to the Bassmaster Classic?
I've always kind of had a dream to fish a Classic someday, as well as make the Elite Series. Those are my two goals. However, guiding was first and foremost. That's how I, pay my bills every month, is 100% off the guiding. And I've been doing that since high school. This will be my 21st year of guiding, and multiple species. I'm not just a bass guide. I'm hardly a bass guide at all, actually. I do more walleye trips and salmon and trout. And then when I moved to Sturgeon Bay here, I started doing more bass trips just because we're in one of the smallmouth meccas of the country. So multiple species with that. And then I also guide in the wintertime for walleyes and whitefish on the ice.
What's the name of your guide service if folks want to go fishing with one of the best bass anglers in the world? How do they do that?
So it's Rasmussen Outdoors. We do have a website that has all of the opportunities on there, from, walleyes, bass to trout and salmon, and it's www.rasmussenoutdoors.com. And all the information's on there. If you like to book a trip, give me a call or shoot me a text or an email, whatever is easiest. And obviously I don't have a ton of time now that I'm doing more tournaments, but definitely see what I have open to get you on a schedule. And I do have some other people that work for me as well that, they've all been trained by me. So just like you're fishing with me, but it's not me.
Okay, I'll give that to you, but it would be a real treat to fish with you, I got to tell you, Adam. But getting back to your journey to the Classic, how did you qualify?
So last May 2023, I won the Bassmaster Open at Lake Wheeler. And if you win an Open, that qualifies you for the Bassmaster Classic. So it was pretty crazy at that time to think that I was going to the Classic. However, I was so busy with, finishing off the season and other stuff. I honestly never thought about the Classic until I was on my way there from Santee Cooper, which was the last Open I fished right before the Classic. I knew I didn't want to put any pressure on myself thinking about it and getting carried away with that. So I I kind of just blocked it out of my head. And then, when I got there, it got real fast.
Wow. These opens, they are not cheap to fish. What's the entry fee?
Entry fees in the opens are, I believe this year, they're $2,000 a piece. But then with your expenses to go do 9 tournaments, you're looking at $45,000 to $50,000 with all your lodging, gas, entry fees, all that good stuff.
Well, thank goodness you had a title sponsor to help you out. And who was that?
Yeah, this spring we worked out a deal with Soda Sense, and it's actually it's a company that refills the CO2 bottles for like an in-home soda maker. So people that have an in-home soda maker can go to Soda Sense's website and sign up for a refill program, and they'll send you full bottles, and you send your old bottles back on a prepaid label, box them up, ship them back, and then they'll have that stuff at your door on a monthly basis. So kind of a cool company taking advantage of like soda machines and, less waste. You don't have to stock your house up with soda. If you're a soda drinker, you can buy all the different flavors and kind of make carbonated drinks however you like them. So it's kind of a cool deal.
I would say so. And on that note, we got to wrap things up. But folks, if you follow the Bass Opens, keep an eye on Adam Rasmussen. He's a dark horse who came out of nowhere to end up in second place at the Classic. And I suspect he's going to do great things again this season. Adam, thanks so much for the time today on America Outdoors Radio.
Not a problem. Thank you.
This portion of the show was brought to you by our friends at WorkSharp. They're the fine folks out of Ashland, Oregon, who make knife and tool sharpeners that you can use, whether you're hunting or fishing or camping or maybe in your shop, maybe in your kitchen, for all of the knives and tools you need sharpened every day when you work and play. WorkSharp tools can be found online at worksharptools.com, or you can find them in sporting goods stores and hardware stores all over our great nation. Just look for WorkSharp products to sharpen your knives and your tools, because nothing is worse than trying to get the job done right with a dull blade.
I'm Anthony Imperato, president of Henry Repeating Arms. Patriotic Americans are looking to protect and provide for their families now more than ever. Henry has over 200 rifles and shotguns to choose from. Made in America or not made at all. And backed by a lifetime guarantee. Order a free catalog, decals, and a list of Henry dealers in your area. Go to henryusa.com or call 1-800-958-4993. Thank you, and God bless America.
In today's news, I'm cooking a brisket. Let's go to Jill at my house to see how it's going.
This is your house and you brought me and the crew to check on your brisket?
That's correct, Jill. How's it looking?
This is a Camp Chef Woodwind Wi-Fi. You know you can check your cook right from your phone, right?
I didn't know that was an option, Jill. Well, never mind. But before you leave, can you feed the dog?
What? No.
When we get back, why is my check engine light on? The answer may shock me.
We love our children. We protect them. We guide them. We prepare them for life in the world. With all that we do from deep in our hearts, we cannot control all things. Life-threatening illnesses and disabilities affect far too many of our children each year. While we cannot change the circumstances, we can make dreams come true. Dreams to provide hope, to provide spiritual healing and strength, to provide moments of happiness and relief in the darkest of times. We can give a glimmer of light and hope in a time of darkness and despair. Join huntofalifetime.org to help make dreams come true, to provide hope for children with life-threatening illnesses and disabilities. Hunt of a Lifetime is a nonprofit organization fulfilling dreams for hunting and fishing trips to youth 21 and under with life-threatening illnesses and disabilities. Visit huntofalifetime.org to learn how you can make a difference. That's huntofalifetime.org.
You know, it's true. Difficult times have a way of focusing us. We have to think about what matters most when it comes to our spending, our health care. No doubt. This is why so many people are joining Medi-Share right now. Medi-Share is a trusted way to save up to 50% on your monthly health care costs. More than 400,000 people have already made the switch. It's pretty obvious why, too, especially now during this challenging season with healthcare costs and out-of-pocket expenses going up. MediShare can save you a lot of money. The typical family saves $500 a month. And MediShare is a Christian healthcare sharing ministry that's worked beautifully for 29 years. There are different options to choose from to fit your budget. I'll give you the number here in a second, and if you call, you can get a price within 2 minutes. Maybe now is the perfect time to make the switch and start saving. Here you go. Call 855-SHARE-40. That's 855-SHARE 40. 855-SHARE-40.
You're back in with America Outdoors Radio. Our next stop is Tillamook on the north coast of Oregon. That's where we get to talk to Rebecca Jones, who reeled in a record fish the other day. Rebecca, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much.
So I understand that fishing is fairly new to you. You are a woman that's in your early 40s, but you didn't learn about fishing from your mom or your dad or your grandpa or uncle, did you?
No, I certainly did not grow up doing any of that.
So tell me a little bit about how you got into fishing, and then we'll talk about this fish that you caught.
So I have always had an interest for pretty much anything outdoors. I'm a fifth-generation Oregonian, grew up on 100 acres, but never was given, the skill set for hunting and fishing. So later in life, when I wanted to go out and do things on my own, I just started by buying, the gear that I needed. And so I would have to say some of the first fishing that I ever did was just fishing for trout. And then it grew from there. And then I, in my life, happened to come up on some people that were willing to teach me things like, fishing for salmon and et cetera. And so when I moved to Tillamook, my partner taught me how to go rock fishing. And that's how I ended up with the catch we're going to be talking about today.
So you were fishing right off the jetty at Tillamook Bay near Garibaldi, weren't you?
Yes, I was.
And you were fishing for rockfish. And tell me what your setup was.
So I just actually used a rod that was set up for salmon steelhead. It's a comfortable one for me. I had been using something much bigger before that wasn't working. So braided line and I think 20-pound test. And I did have a double hook leader on, but I kept losing my gear. So I just changed it to single with sand shrimp. And that's what I caught this fish on. And it's really simple. And to be honest, I don't know a lot about like a bunch of various different ways to set it up. What I knew was I kept losing gear and I just wanted to fish. The bite was on and I was getting anxious to just keep getting it out there. So that's what I was using the day that I caught this fish.
So I'm guessing you were not fishing this under a bobber, but you probably had like a pyramid weight that was keeping it anchored on the bottom?
I had a 3-ounce sinker, not a pyramid weight, but yeah.
Okay, so you said you kept losing your gear. Were you losing your gear or were you losing your bait because fish were stealing it?
Both. Both, very much so.
Well, that can be frustrating. I understand that.
The magic line to wrap it up in. And so, I'd feel it like they just kept biting and biting and, the bait feeds. And so I'd pull that up or sometimes, it would be fish on and it would, go into the rocks and I'd lose it that way. So it was an exciting, couple hours that I was out there. It was just action the entire time. And so I think that was what was making me anxious. I knew they were out there. I was the only one fishing out there. It's a beautiful day. And that's when I switched to the single because it takes me time to set it up because I am a novice. So that's why I ended up with.
So you've got this sand strip on a single hook. You send it out there again, and then this record fish bites. Tell me about the fish and the fight.
Yeah, absolutely. So I felt the bite like I had been all day. So, at that point, it was like, okay, here it is. I'm going to wait a little bit and see, if it's really on. So I felt the fight a little bit, and then it stopped. And I thought, oh, gosh, okay, I'm just going to sit and wait again and see what I feel. And then I felt it again, and I was like, well, I'm going to, just see what's on there. I'd been getting small greenling, less than 12 inches, just, sending stuff back in. And so, it gave a little bit of a fight. And because the tide was pretty low, I was pretty close, to the water on the rocks there. And I just very actually easily pulled this up. It wasn't a big fight at all. And then I saw its face. And that's where I was like, what is this?
So,
what is
folks,
this ugly thing?
The fish that Rebecca caught, and I literally thought this was an April Fool's Day press release from the Oregon Department of Fish and Wildlife, because Rebecca caught this fish on April Fool's Day, April 1st. It's called a monkey face prickleback, and it looks like an eel, and it's got a face like a monkey, and this one weighed 4.8 pounds, and they're only found along the Oregon coast, according to the Oregon Department of Fish and Wildlife, in just a few places. And this is not only a new state record, but it's a pending world record at 4.8 pounds. So I've got to ask you, you pull this thing out of the water, and you're probably thinking the same thing I would have. What the heck is this? How'd you figure out what it was?
It was a phone a friend moment. Send a picture. What is this? And so, and then I learned from there. And so when I pulled this fish out, it wasn't really flopping around a bunch or anything like that. So I was able to get a quick picture and send that off. And then, I was told what it was. And of course, then it starts, flopping around, and I have to sit on it because it is half the size of me. I'm 5'4", and this was 28 inches. And then I start to, research more, but I have, of course, all the fish on my hands, and it's hard to research and, get this fish in and all of that. But yeah, the more I started looking into it, the more I realized, wow, I really got something here.
So did you take it to Tillamook Sporting Goods and have it weighed on their scale, or what'd you do next?
Yeah, I tried to do that. And oh gosh, they were so friendly. And by the way, shout out to them. That's where I bought my stuff that day that I went out. But I did, my partner Jasper said, why don't you take it on in there? And so they said that they didn't weigh that there, and that may be at another sporting goods store. But it was getting late and I needed to get home. And the other place they recommended was closed. So I ended up just taking it home and using a scale. So the IGFA, I can send that scale in and they can certify the scale for me that I used.
Oh.
So there's a few different regulations. You need to save your leader, your line, basically what you use to catch the fish. You need to be able to send that in and also have a certified scale, some pictures, things like that. So I'll be sending that scale in. So that's why the world record would be pending. And it's through the IGFA that would certify.
That is really interesting. I mean, I've always known that you need a certified scale, and most people go to a sporting goods store or a bait shop or even a grocery store to do that. I never knew you could use your own scale at home and just send in the scale and get that certified. That is a real tidbit that I think most of our listeners never knew before.
That's what I was looking at. So I'm waiting for a phone call back from them. I did talk to somebody there that had told me I would potentially be able to send that in. And then they do have on their website, what you would need to be able to do. And it looks like I'm able to send that one in. But regardless, I have it weighed, and I know. But I think the certification thing is it'll be a fun thing if that were to come through.
So what did you end up doing with the fish?
Well, I ate it. Of course, I love to cook. I'm a foodie, and I did all of the measuring and everything that I felt like I needed to do, all of the documentation, happy pictures, yay, And then, I filleted it out and I cooked it and I ate it, and it was delicious.
And I think that was the next question I was going to ask, and all of our listeners are going to ask, exactly what does a monkey face prickleback taste like?
So it tastes like a regular rockfish, a lean cod. It has the texture of lobster. I think the texture was the thing that I was most surprised about. It's even almost like chicken, so it definitely tastes like a white fish, but it's the texture that was surprising to me. So lobster would be the closest thing that I could come to explain that.
All right. Well, there you go, folks. Monkey face prickleback, a very tasty fish. Hard to find, but you can do so on the Oregon coast. And congratulations to you, Rebecca, for catching a world record. And folks, if you want to find out more about heading towards Tillamook and fishing this area or crabbing in the area or climbing in the area, it's a wonderful destination. Trust me on this. I've been there several times. Absolutely love it. The website to go to find guides, to find places to go fish and crab and clam and things to do. Very simple. TillamookCoast.com. That's TillamookCoast.com. Plan your trip to the Northern Oregon coast, and who knows, maybe you'll catch a monkey face prickleback too. Rebecca, congratulations again, and thanks so much for sharing your story with us today on America Outdoors Radio.
Thank you so much.
In other news, I think a lot of you are aware that we podcast this show a few days after it airs, and you can hear it on most of your regular podcast platforms. Just look for America Outdoors Radio. But something that we haven't really done before is to put the Pacific Northwest edition of America Outdoors Radio in podcast format. Now, this show is heard exclusively on Seattle Sports Radio, FM 93.3 KJR. And it includes not just the show that you're hearing today, but also 13 minutes of extra content that's dedicated to fishing, hunting, and other outdoors issues in the Pacific Northwest, to include fishing and hunting reports too. You are now going to get a chance to hear this edition of America Outdoors Radio because of our partnership with Sportsman's Cove Lodge. They've got a brand new YouTube channel, and you can find it at youtube.com/@the-Cove Network. That's right, youtube.com/@the-Cove Network, or just look for The Cove Sportsman's Network on YouTube, and you'll find not only my podcast, but some great information about our friends at Sportsman's Cove Lodge in Southeast Alaska. On that note, it is time to go, but here's hoping you are blessed in the days ahead, and here's hoping you get out there for some fishing and maybe some turkey hunting too, or whatever else floats your proverbial boat. After all, it is your country and your outdoors, so get out there and enjoy it.